All right, so what we're going to do tonight in class is I'm going to do an example or two of problems, not your homework problems and not homework problems from other weeks, but I'm just going to work an example or two cold. So you can see how would I approach the problem for the first time, and then how would I kind of double check it to see if I made a mistake. I'm going to start and spend anywhere from an hour to 2 hours on that, depending on how it's going, how many questions you all have, whether you're finding it useful. And then we can spend, actually probably more like an hour to hour and a half. And then we can spend another half an hour to an hour troubleshooting your homework problem. So you were supposed to come in with like a real attempt on all of your homework problems today. You guys like read your emails, right? Okay, no, okay. And so the way this works best is if you come to class with your homework like attempted, and then what we can do, I will help you troubleshoot the models where you're struggling with them. Try to go through at least one of each model if students are interested in seeing that model. If everybody's got it, and that's fine, we can move on. But like I said, if anybody's struggling with the model, I'm happy to go over one of them. So I hope you all brought your books. Actually, before we start that, does anybody have questions about the class function or the syllabus? I'm kind of assuming you're adults and you like got online and you read. Yeah, am I assuming too much? Do we need to go over the syllabus? I'm sorry, what?
Not about the syllabus. Was your next question going to be if we had questions about getting the program?
Are you all having trouble programs?
Yes.
I am.
You mean the add-ins?
Yeah, doing the add-ins.
It took me a little minute.
Okay, found where the programs are. Load them at.
I got the book, I have the ebook, and I got one being sent to me. So I have access to the book, but it didn't give me the option to do extra courses.
When you bought the ebook, it came with access to the software.
Okay,
So if you log into the same place where you would go to read your ebook, you should have options to access the software and the other materials.
Software it said that it wouldn't let me download it because I didn't have admin. I guess capacity on my computer, which is very strange.
Are you not an admin on your computer?
I am.
Okay.
My friend has previously taken this class, and the downloads on a jump drive. So I was able to get the solver add-in, and that's fine, but I can't get the solver table now. Since the access code that they gave me whenever I purchased, follow the link that you put on the syllabus, I can't access any of that stuff.
This code when you bought the book should have been instructions that came with your access code for how to use your access code. It would not have been the same link.
I followed the instructions for, like I did everything that you said to do in the syllabus and followed that link to Cengage and get it, but I don't.
Right, do you have access code?
I go, they sent it to me.
Okay, the email or whatever they sent it to you with, was it an email or a hard copy of a card? Instructions on that card for what you need to do to access the materials. Okay. Other questions about materials access?
To clarify something.
Mm-hmm.
So on the cngagebrain.com,
Mm-hmm.
my book is still in transit, so I've been using the ebook.
Okay.
There's also a section called Free Study Tools. And underneath there's like case files, example files, etc., things like that, problem files. For the Palisade decision tools, there I was having a little bit of difficulty, but it's like a suite of different add-ons, right?
Yes, the decision tools are a suite of add-ons. What you need is the precision tree out of that suite. You don't really need the rest of it.
I was looking to download that file, except
you have a Mac. You can't run it on that.
I have to run it on
You're gonna have to run it on a PC. It will not run on a Mac. Else has a Mac. That's the thing. You cannot do some of the homework on a Mac. Just cannot happen. Okay. One of my classes, I'm thinking it was my online class that did video in that has been kind of siloed to a Mac world. In the same way, analytics has tended to silo PC world. They just don't make some of the software for Macs. Last time the publisher, they had no intention of ever making it for Macs because they said that there wasn't going to be the demand for it. So. There are other questions about materials and access.
So
yes.
I got a used book, the access code.
So if you bought a used book and it didn't come with an access code, the easiest way to get access to the materials, buy access to the ebook. I think, what is it, like $36 or something like that?
I think so. I paid $35 for the ebook.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what, guys, last year my class that was using the 4th edition was having to pay $42 just to access the materials that didn't come with an ebook. So it's really not a bad deal. It's sort of like they're giving you the ebook and it's still less expensive than edition. So you don't have, well, some of that depends on how long you buy access to the ebook for. If you do the shortest one, like I want to say May or something like that, that'll give you plenty of time with the course materials and cheaper than it was just if you bought the software last year.
And access to an ebook, so that maybe do the bookstore.
The easiest way to do it, if you follow the link I sent out, email or the syllabus, yeah, either one, in access that way. Because I think the bookstore only has hard copies, and those are expensive. I didn't care whether students used electronic or hard copy. Some students want one, and some students want the other. I don't care. Use what works for you.
It gives us the precision tree, right? Is that it?
Precision tree, it gives you access to the templates that you need. It gives you access to like the starting file. So like when you're doing your homework, when you see, let me pull one just so I use the right terminology. Yeah, so when it says like hours of machine time and labor depends on the machine and product is shown in the file PO3-38.xlsx, that file on your resources as well. That's starting file. Now, not every problem has a starting file. No starting file listed in the problem, there is none. You start with a blank spreadsheet. All right. Are there other questions about access? And online students, if you are listening, you can go to the chat window in your Brightspace class. You can communicate with me that way. I will make sure that I am checking it in case as well.
So if you get the ebook, you don't need the other book?
If you get the ebook, you do not have to have the hard copy of the book. And $40 for your book for this class and have everything you needed.
Are you referring to when once you get the ebook, it gives you access to download the right?
Yes.
So it's the free resources, say decision tools.
You don't need that one today. What you're going to need today is solver table, and it's in there somewhere too. I think my window looks a little bit different than y'all, so see the student window.
And we click on the link in the syllabus to get to the ebook.
If you're going to buy it, yes.
How we used to look at it.
You have to buy it in order to be able to look at it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean, is there like a test run that you can run on it?
Is there some time of free access? No.
Yeah. Okay, so
You gotta buy it.
Right now.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. All right. Reading question 32 from chapter 3. We will work that problem together.
Am I in the right place here?
Yep.
Because I'm talking to Michael. He's like,
Okay, so do you need 16 or 2013?
I have a Chromebook, so I have like an off brand of Excel.
Oh, that probably is not going to work. You can get a free version of Excel through the IT department here. So anybody else, if you need Excel, like a real version of Excel, if you email helpdesk@stu.edu, they can give you a link to download a free version of Excel.
Okay, so contact the IT department when we're done.
Yeah, you can. And tonight, go ahead and just use one of those computers. You can log in and you can download it more than once.
Okay.
And I'm not sure these computers have Solver Table on them already or not. They have some of the software. Jack kindly took care of that. Jack and Tom kindly took care of that for me.
It's a 32 from chapter 3, right?
Yes, 32 from chapter 3. So it starts, a furniture company manufactures tables and chairs. Does anybody need another minute before you're ready to go? Okay.
My Solver table is on my, I have it and it's on my, so like on the worksheet that I have that I started from my homework, I put it on there, but I'm not seeing it. Do I have to add it every time?
Yeah, you know what? You have to add Solver Table every time. Even on your machine, you've added it before. If you close Excel and reopen Excel, you have to re-add Solver Table. So it's a great little app in terms of what it'll do for you quickly, but it is maybe a little bit of a pain in terms of having to add it.
We have to add it the exact same way as when we initially do it.
Yeah, yes, basically. Mm-hmm. Trying to remember if you have to actually take it off, if you have to uncheck it and press save and then go back and re-add it. I think that's what I usually do.
Should I try that? Because this comment, so when I go to options and then add-ins, and this is on a new worksheet.
Yep.
I see active application add-ins, Solver add-ins, Solver table. So then
you have to go find, you have to show it where it is again. You can't just recheck it. You have to show Excel where it is every time. I know, a little bit of a pain, but probably less of a pain than if you want a sensitivity on, like, you know, with 20 different variations. So, you know.
David, is your email DM Yoder?
My email for the school is DM Yoder, yeah.
Okay, I can send you the email that IT sent to us for our office.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So many of you don't have your books yet. Okay. Alan, do you want to go and maybe share with Jocelyn so that you have a text you can look at tonight?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Yes, it would help you to know what the problem text was.
here, just use mine, 'cause I got the ebook too.
Okay. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Appreciate it.
All right, is everybody else ready to go?
Still signing in.
You're still signing in. Okay.
Solver table on my computer, so
Okay.
I'm using this one.
So
Okay.
are we working on the one?
Well, we don't have to have solver table like right this second. We're going to build the model first. I'm trying to think. We'll use solver table, and this does tell us to use solver table. Okay.
So, do you know anything about disabling or enabling macros?
Yes, you will need to enable macros in order for solver table to run. It runs as a macro. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else need another minute, or are we ready? You need another minute, raise your hand. Amy, you're
Is there Excel on here?
yeah, the easiest way to do it, Amy, is if you just you should have like a type here to search. Just start typing in Excel.
I just can't get my solver table.
You can't get solver table working on there.
I
Okay.
don't know what I'm doing wrong. Following all the instructions.
Let me help you troubleshoot at a break if that's okay.
That's fine.
Because we can get the hard part is the model. Solver table is easy once you get it working. So
Are we on a certain page?
yeah, 126.
Okay. We're down.
Yes.
On C Engage, it says that like the added or the pre-study tools, they expire on the 30th.
Yeah, you know what? They have said that my last two classes, and it's not been a problem. I called the rep about it last time, and I honestly, they weren't sure what to say about it. And they're like, no, they should have access until, as long as they have access to the ebook. What I would do is go ahead and download the ones you need just in case something crazy happens. But you're supposed to have access to the resources as long as the book. Like I said, several other people have had that issue. They were saying they didn't, but they did. So has not actually been a problem. I wish they would fix the date because it causes confusion.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was an additional price for having it for like 40 weeks.
No, that would be kind of crazy.
Yeah. You know this is the 16 version?
The Excel on these computers is 13 still, I believe. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the one from IT might be 16.
Yes, the one IT will send. The one that IT will send you the link for is to 2016. The one that's loaded on these computers is still 2013. I know, way to be confusing, right? And if you download the wrong version, it will give you an error message. So if you are at a computer where you have 2016 and you download 2013, it will not work.
Solver table 2013 zip or solver table XLAM?
The zip is going to be a slightly smaller file usually, but either one should work. Just make sure you have to unzip it if you download the zip. Or extract it. right.
Are you sure this is problem solving and not IT?
It's always like this the first night.
There's a little bit of disconnect here.
I have a Chrome. So.
All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. The first part of this you can do without having to do Excel. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to think through the problem kind of on paper before we start building the model. It will help us to conceptualize our model. So from the problem text, what is the objective of, is it a min or a max? Trying to minimize something or maximize? Max, okay. And what are we trying to maximize? Revenue, okay. All right. What are our decision cells going to be? So what do we need Excel to tell us?
How much wood to use for each?
Okay. How much wood to use for each, and so what that means is how many tables and chairs and oak, or is it pine? Yeah, okay. All right. What are our constraints?
Our total board of oak and pine that are available.
Yep. Oak, pine available. Any other constraints?
They give you the price restraints, how much they can be sold for.
Yes. Okay. That won't be a constraint, but that is another piece of important information. So selling price is also important. All right. Hi. So what we are doing is we're going through problem 32 in chapter 3 is another example problem. So go ahead and log in, and then if you've got your book, you can go and get it out and read the problem. So when you approach one of these with a blank spreadsheet, there is not necessarily a right or a wrong way to lay it out. There are, at this point, 11 of us in this room, right? If we all chose our way of laying them out, they might all look just a little bit differently, and that's okay. You want to do something that makes sense conceptually to you, and then you also want to label it well so that you don't get confused later on, okay? So make sure that what you do, like I said, both makes sense to you and is labeled well, but don't get so stressed out about, I don't know how to start, that you don't start. You just start. Okay, so the thing I'm going to start with is just putting in some of the parameters. So the selling price for a chair is $300. Okay. Selling price for a table is $800. And you oak chairs. Let's tables and pine chairs and pine tables. How do you want to do it? No, it's not. All right. Oak. We'll just do oak. I'm going to do a matrix. So we're going to do tables, chairs, and then I'm going to do oak and pine. That's a little bit easier to do. Okay. And I'm going to switch these because see how I have them up here? It'll make it easier to copy and paste. I'm going to highlight my decision cells. So these right here are going to be my decision cells. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sum the amount of oak panels that I've used. Actually, I'm missing something. I'm missing in here in my given information how many feet of each type that it takes to manufacture the chairs and tables. So I am going to create actually another, I don't have to create, I'm going to copy and paste it. And I take this out because it's not a decision cell. And so to make a chair from oak takes how many feet? 5 of oak. And it takes 13 of pine. Okay. And a table takes 17 of oak and 30 of pine. I actually don't want that white. I just want to know fill. Okay. Numbers from the problem. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So now, this is not just going to be a sum to find out how much oak that I've used. It's going to be a sum product. You need to know the amount of oak that was used for chairs is going to be 5 times the number of chairs that are manufactured in oak, and the, plus the number of tables times 17. And so that's what a sum product does really easily. Okay. Do you want me to show you the long way to do it? Would that help you conceptualize what a sum product does a little bit better? Concept for students to beginning. Okay. So if I do the amount of oak the amount of chairs produced times the amount of oak needed for each chair, plus the amount of tables times, or the amount of oak needed for each table. Okay. And if I fill in numbers, say I'm going to produce 2 and 2, that would use 44 pieces of oak to produce those tables and chairs. Does that make sense? Do you understand where I'm getting those numbers and why? All right. So here's what a sum product does. So our number is 44. It will be the same number again with our sum product, because that's exactly what our sum product is doing. It's just doing it more quickly and more easily. So you give it the first range, and you give it the second range, and lo and behold, you get 44. So the sum product does whatever your range is. The 2 ranges in your, when you do sum product, the ranges you use, and it may be 2 or maybe 3, could be more than that in some cases, they have to be exactly the same size and shape. And so then it multiplies the 2 numbers in the corresponding shape. So if my shape looked like, my 2 shapes looked like this, so a 3 by 3, so 1, 2, 3, okay, it would take this number right here times this number right here, plus this number right here times this number right here, plus this number right here times this number right here. Does that make sense?
How did you do?
Did you highlight?
Yeah. Do you want to see the formula? It's sum product and then open parentheses. And then you select your 2 ranges, put a comma in between them, close out parentheses.
Do you highlight the 5 and 17 first, or do you do the whole thing altogether?
Do I highlight? Do you want to see me put it in again?
Yeah. Well,
Okay. Equals sum product. All right.
click on it, or you're highlighting.
I'm highlighting both of them at the same time, and then I'm putting a comma and highlighting the next.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And you can just keep going with these. We don't need to for this problem, but you can.
You just press enter.
You press enter, yeah. And in this case, I can just copy and paste this formula over.
and stuff online, what are you pressing to just be able to like drag and copy it? You don't go through it.
Oh,
like,
okay, sure. So in Excel, most of the time your cursor is this big fat thing right here. I need a laser or something. You see it right here? Okay. When the cursor changes to this little guy right here with skinny arms, no arrows, you can copy and paste. So that's going to happen when you are at the bottom right-hand corner of the cell you want to copy. You can drag it over pretty easily. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So what I'm going to do over here is a sum of the number of chairs that I made. Okay, and then I'm going to copy that down. And it'll give me the sum of the tables. Okay. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do revenue. And I'm going to do another sum product. And selling price times the type of each item made. And actually, I need to put that down another line or two because I have to put in my constraints still.
So you did some product and then you highlighted what first again?
Okay. I did a sum product, and then what I did is I took the price multiplied by the number of each item that was produced. And again, if the sum product confuses you, just put it in the long right way. The important thing is that it makes sense to you, not whether you're using sum product or you're putting it in the long way. All right, got to put in my constraint next. So how much oak is available? 15,000, okay. And how much pine? Okay. And so do these have to be less than, greater than, equal to, what is it? These have to be less than or equal to, okay? Now, these right here in C14 and D14, they technically don't matter in terms of, like they don't actually affect anything. It just helps you when you're going to put in the constraint, okay, to be a little bit more visual. I'm going to highlight this cell so that it's easy to keep track of it. All right. I'm ready to go in Solver and build my model in Solver. This part's complete. Now we have to go ahead and put it in Solver. See if we can get an answer. Okay, so I'm going to set it to a max. What is my objective cell? I'm sorry?
Your revenue?
Yes, my revenue. So it's E18, which I think you guys can't see because you can't see the rows. All right, and which cells am I changing? What color are they highlighted in?
Your tables and chairs of oak and pine?
Yep, the number of tables and chairs made out of oak and pine. And how many constraints do I have? Well, it is technically two, but we can put it in as one because they're connected. That is, the amount of oak and pine used has to be less than or equal to the amount of oak and pine available. Okay. And we're going to make this linear. So that's simplex LP. What's the difference between simplex LP and nonlinear? And nonlinear, instead of calculating the best answer, what it does is it just throws a bunch of random variables in there, and it'll give you a good answer. Getting like cohesive answers or whatever that are fairly good, it'll like throw a top one out, but it doesn't necessarily get you the best answer. There are a few times, which we're not going to get into in this class, where you have to do these things nonlinear. I think you guys did one of those when you were MBA principals. Okay, we won't do those in here. When you have to use nonlinear, that's one thing. But you want to, when you can, you want to use linear. It is stronger, and that's not just in. It's not just in regret, or it's not just in this type of problem. Okay, anytime you do statistics, linear, if you can keep it, if you don't violate linearity, you have a stronger model. Okay, so when you get into regression, you get into t-test, you get into ANOVAs, it's always stronger if it's a linear. The test is more powerful. Powerful is probably a better word than stronger. Okay. All right, are you with me so far? Okay. All right. So I have 1.4 million in revenue. We are going to make 3,000 oak chairs and 700 pine tables. We're using all of our oak, we're using all of our pine. Does that make sense? Questions?
It's super cool. I just think that it's like, in my mind, knowing how to put those numbers like that for that word problem, it just doesn't like register.
Okay, and that's where it takes practice. So this will help you. If you'll map it out over here first, whether you do it on the side or a piece of paper or whatever, if you will do this, what's my objective? What are my decision cells? What are my constraints? That will help you. Okay. And then again, it doesn't matter if it looks just like this or not. Okay, if we all did it without looking at each other's, it would likely all look just a little bit differently, and that's okay.
Naming the range.
Naming the range, sure. One of the things that explains it kind of avoids magic numbers in the formula, in that if you look at your formula, if I looked at this formula, I don't really know what these numbers are unless I go click on them and it highlights the ranges. If I had named these ranges, then I would, if I had named these like total, so I'd say total times selling, and I named this one selling price or whatever. But so then instead of just the numbers, this one would say total, this one would say, or this one would say selling price, this one would say like total produced or something like that. Does that make sense? So then you would know that your sum product was the selling price times the total produced. So the other advantage of named ranges is that they act as an absolute value. Who remembers what an absolute value is? Jocelyn, what? It can only be positive. Okay. That's true in math. In Excel, though, there's absolute values and relative values in cells. What an absolute value is versus a relative value. Anybody? Bill, I'm guessing you know this one. No? All right. Here's what an absolute value is versus a relative value. So I'm going to screw my formula up. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste this formula over one. Okay. These are all relative values. So Excel is pretty smart. Anytime you copy and paste a formula over, it copies and pastes the cell references over as long as they're relative, the same amount. So for this cell, I referred to C4 and C5 and E11 and E12. When I copied and pasted this over, it changed. I pasted it over one column. It changed all my cell references over one column. Okay. So if you don't want Excel to do that, instead of making it a relative value, you make it an absolute value. Okay. So if I had made these two things an absolute value, and you do that by putting dollar signs in front of the row and the column. Actually, I did that in the wrong one. Undo. All right, I'm going to do it here. And the easy way to do that actually is to press F4 keyboard shortcut, so you don't have to go in and do every one. Do keyboard shortcut, and then just press, or I'm sorry, if you click on it and then just do F4. And it actually, you can cycle through F4 because sometimes it gets even more fun. You just want the row to stay the same and you want the column to adjust. Other times you want the column to stay the same and you want the row to adjust. And we do get into all of these in here. And then other times you want them both to stay fixed. Okay. So if you just keep hitting F4, it'll cycle through all of your options. All right, so now let's see. I have all of these as absolute values. When I copy and paste this formula, it is still going to be referring to the same cells. See how that did not change with the absolute values? Okay. So another trick that's something that sometimes throws students. In Excel, it's not like a text file. So like if I come over here, or when you're with numbers, it's not like text file. If I come over here and start typing, I can see that this got cut off, right? You know that that's not the entire word, and you can generally tell that there's probably more text there that you're not seeing. Well, you can't tell that with numbers, right? You don't know if a number's gotten cut off quite as easily as if a word gets cut off in the middle. So when Excel can't show you the entire number, signs. So when you see pound signs, you know that there's a number in the cell. The cell's not big enough to show you the number. So if you come over here and double click the column, it will automatically adjust the cell size so that you can see the, it'll adjust it to the biggest, whatever the biggest amount of content is in that column. Yes, Levi?
Do you mind just showing these solver parameters that you use over time?
Sure. I can pull solver back up for you. Let me go ahead and take this back out. There we go. Okay, here's my solver parameters.
Could you explain that?
Explain the solver parameters?
Yes.
Okay, so E18 is my objective cell. So that's my revenue. Okay, I want my revenue. I want to maximize my revenue as the objective. Okay, I'm going to change. These are the decision cells. Okay, subject to the constraint, the total amount of oak and pine used has to be less than or equal to the total amount of oak and pine available. And then you want it to be simplex LP because that is the most powerful of the modeling techniques. Okay. We can run it on nonlinear. I don't know if we'll get the same answer. So we're 1.46 million. Let's see if we get the same answer. And we do in this case. I'm going to zero these out and see if we still get the same answer. Sometimes you would and sometimes you wouldn't. I'm playing. Okay. That's the same profit before, and that's the same decisions, right? I think it is. Yeah, okay. All right, here's another thing that sometimes you see. All right, it didn't quite zero this thing out, so you get this really strange looking number, but you can effectively read 2.8 to the exponent negative 14. That means that there's 14 zeros in front of this 2. That's effectively 0. Just read that as 0 and move on with life. In fact, if we change it to a number, and if we change the format to a number, it would show as a 0. There we go. And we can get rid of the decimals to make it look like the others. Yeah, but anytime you see that crazy number and you have a bunch of exponents, you know, like negative 14 afterward, it's 0. You get that more often with the nonlinear than with the linear. All right, so I'm going to change it back to linear just because. All right, do you want to see the solver table portion of this? Yes, okay. All right, we actually have to do some modifications before we can do the solver table. So this is a good one. All right. So in this, what they're asking us to do is to be able to vary the price of an oak chair separately from that of a pine chair. So the oak products can vary up or down 30%, and the pine products can, the selling price of the pine products can vary up and down by 30%. So means is that our total as we have it is no longer going to work. So I'm going to do another matrix just because I find that the easiest way to do this, I think. And again, I'm working these cold, right? So we'll try one thing, and if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. So our oak price, or our oak variance, and our pine variance. So the actual selling price of oak chairs is going to be 1 plus the oak variance. Or so it's going to be this selling price plus, but no, 1 plus the, okay, got it. So it's going to be this plus 1 plus the variance. No, this times. Okay, sorry. 1 plus the variance. So when our variance is 0, as it is right now, then this should show up as, if we've done it right, it should show up as $300, right? Okay, and so it does. Now, I can't copy and paste this as is because of absolute values. I'm going to show you what happens since we've discussed it if I try. It's going to be completely wacky. Now, this one doesn't look wacky yet, but it would actually be wrong. So if I put a variance in for oak, so I'm going to do, I'll do 30%. This one adjusted. This one did not. Okay, and that's because you cannot copy and paste without getting the absolute values correct. Now, you can avoid the absolute value issue if you just want to put in everything manually. It'll take you longer, and you still have to understand what you're multiplying by what. But it's up to you. I'm going to show you how to do it using the absolute values. So, yeah, I can. All right.
Can I ask how you got the 0.3 in the oak variance, or was that something?
I just made that up.
Okay.
Just so that I could show you, because it said that it could vary from positive 0.3 to negative 0.3. So I just plugged in the positive 0.3.
Multiplied it 1 plus.
It's 1 times. And then in parentheses, 1 plus the percentage for variance. Do we understand why this is 1 plus the percentage and not just the percentage?
No.
Okay. So this is supposed to be that it's an increase of 30%. Okay. So I think the easiest way is to show you what would happen if I just took out the 1. So should it be more than 300 or less than 300 if you're increasing the price by 30%? More. Okay, so if I take out the 1, it's $90. So that's just telling you that 30% of 300 is $90. Okay. When you add the 1, you are anything times 1 is itself. That's the identity law of multiplication. I should have my daughter sing that for this class. Okay. So if you add, so when you add the 1, you're adding essentially doing 300 plus 90. Okay. Because the distributive law of multiplication is, it would be this number. Okay. This formula also equals 300 times 1 plus 30, or plus 300 times 30. Okay. So A plus opening parentheses, B plus C closing parentheses equals A plus B. I'm sorry, A equals A times B plus A times C, the distributive law. Yeah. I've worked on that with my 8-year-old. She's in classical conversations, and the amount of things that child has to know to get memory master is insane. It's 5 hours of oral testing, and she did it last year. Now, it's not 5 hours at one time. They have to do it 4 times. They have to do it or to completely do it 3 times, and they have a 25% check. And like I said, it was about 5 hours total of oral testing over a period of about a week. It's a thing in the last 3.
8.
She's 8 now. She did it at 7.
What is this called?
It's called Classical Conversations. It's a homeschool group. It covers everything but language arts and math. I mean, it covers some math, like the basic laws and stuff. You how to calculate the area of a triangle and a square, and from Classical Conversations. She can sing it at the top of her lungs. Yeah. All right. So we digress. Although that is more entertaining than this, I think. All right. So we understand why this formula, we need that formula and what it's doing. Okay. So now let's work on the absolute values. Do I want, and I'll give you a hint. I don't want this to stay completely fixed. I want one of these to move. Do I want the rows to stay fixed here, or do I want the columns to stay fixed? Columns, yes. I do not want my column to move over to D, because if that's why I'm getting 0 here, because when this one moved over 1, there's nothing here. But so I'm going to make this an absolute value where C stays fixed. Okay. I'm going to, so for E, do I want my row to move or my column? Or I'm sorry, do I want my row to stay fixed or my column to stay fixed? My row. Yes, for this one, it's my row. Okay. All right. So now here's our test. Okay, so far it looks right. I'm going to plug in a number over here, and I'm just making this up. Doesn't matter what number. I just want to make sure that both of these move. Okay. So now my revenue is still going to be a sum product, but it's going to be a sum product of this array times this array. Okay. Set these at 0. And if I rerun this, I'm going to 0 this out. And if I rerun this with these variances at 0, I should still get the same answers I did before. And I do. Okay.
See that again?
So I zeroed these out. And I reran the solver again. Once you put it in, unless you make a change, you know what? I need to save this thing before my Excel crashes. Last time I taught this class, my Excel kept crashing in the middle of. Then I was out of luck because I hadn't saved my model. So now I'm going to go in and add my solver table. So I'm going to go to options. add-ins, manage Excel add-ins, and browse. And I'm going to go find it again, which is thinking it's in here. This may not work because I think it's 2000. See if it'll work.
For when you were making them absolute values and then copying them over, I lost.
Okay, when I was, okay. Yeah, I can go back and show you the absolute values. So for the selling price, I didn't want the column to move because normally if it had been a relative value, okay, when I copied it over here, instead of referencing C3, this would have moved over and I would have been referencing D3. Okay, and then it was the same over here for the row. I wanted just one variance. So
you used the over chairs and then just copied it from other boxes, right?
I used.
Or did you input it twice?
I did not have to input it twice. No, I used the selling price for oak chairs, and because of making it an absolute value, okay, when I went over here, I was still referencing oak chairs for that one. Now, because I only made the column an absolute value, when I went down a row, what happened? Was I still referencing chairs? I made the column an absolute value, but my row can still float. So when I went down a row, now instead of referencing columns, now instead of referencing chairs, I'm referencing tables. See how that works?
Right, okay.
So to do that, you've got to think through, what do I want to stay the same and what do I want to move? And again, you don't have to use the absolute value, okay? But you'll spend a lot more time putting in formulas, but you can put in your formulas every time. Now, what you do need to avoid is just typing in numbers. And by that, I mean, don't start just typing in 300 for every place that you need to refer to the selling price of the chair. Because if I ask you to get to change that and get a variance on that, you won't be able to do it. Okay, so you need to have your numbers like in one spot, your important numbers in one spot and one spot only, and then reference them as applicable. Sometimes you literally do a reference to the number, like you may not change it. So if you ever need to just reference the $300 without changing it, all you have to do is press equals and hit the cell that it's in. Okay. But you only want your critical numbers on your spreadsheet one time. And then know which one that is so that you vary that one and everything changes. Because otherwise, you know, if I have this listed up here, but I don't refer to it anywhere, and then I decide that I'm going to make this 400 instead of 300, nothing in here is going to change, but now it's going to look like I based this off a selling price for a chair of $400, not $300. Bill, how would your manager feel about that if you gave him a spreadsheet and said, sell these chairs for $400 and this is what you're going to make, and it was all wrong? Yeah, exactly. Okay. It would tend to get you in hot water in the workplace. It'd probably be an even bigger deal if you had changed this to 200 or something like that and the revenue for $300 selling price instead of $200 selling price. Anyway. All right. We ready to go into solver table? Okay, this is going to be a one-way variance. I did solver again. It didn't bring solver table up. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry.
Before we do solver tables, we have to put the 30%
You don't have to put the numbers in if that's what you're asking. You have to have the formulas. But I've essentially zeroed them out. All right, so when I hit run solver table, it's going to say that you should have an existing solver model, and it should be, solver should be loaded. It is. Yes, I want to continue. I want a one-way data table for this. All right. Actually, do I want a one-way or two-way? Yeah, actually, I want a two-way. So I'm going to cancel that out because it wants simultaneous changes in two variances that are that's a two-way. So my first input cell is going to be the amount of oak variance. Input cell, oak variance. Okay. My maximum value there is going to be negative 0.3. Or I'm sorry, my minimum value is negative 0.3. My maximum value is 0.3. And does it tell me what increments? If not, we will, yes, in increments of 0.1. Okay. Yes, I did negative 0.3.
For the first one, for the minimum?
Yeah. Okay, and so I'm going to come over here and do my pine variance next. And actually, I'm going to put in a descriptive name too, especially since I don't have the cell, the ranges named where it would tend to come up automatically. Okay, so oak variance, pine variance. My numbers for pine variance is going to be the same, negative 0.3, 0.3, and your increment is 0.1. Okay. All right. My output cells. What I always recommend you do for your output cells is your decision cells and your objective cell. Because you may need that information to recommend a different plan.
So did you select decision cells?
So I selected the decision cells, held down control, and then selected the revenue.
Why do you suggest that?
Why do I suggest that? Sure, so that you can see how the changes affect your which is to optimize the revenue, and how the changes would affect your production plan. Okay, both of those would be critical details to know.
In solver and solver table.
So solver gives you one answer. Okay, what solver table does is it simultaneously will run a bunch of simulations of solver and spit out a basic summary of the results, if that makes sense. So you have to build a solver model in order to be able to use solver table, but it'll tell you how sensitive the items in your model are to different outputs. Okay. So you might decide, well, maybe I can buy a little bit more oak or a little bit more. You might decide at some point to vary your constraint. That's one of the most popular. So if I'm going to buy, 300 more pieces of oak or pine, which is going to get me more profit? And so you could run a simulation on that. Okay. So everybody gotten this far. I'm going to go ahead and do OK. And this is going to take it a little while. Oh, and this looks fun, doesn't it? Yeah. So here's what this tells us, is it does not matter what the variance in the price of the it does not matter. The variance in the price doesn't matter as far as your production plan. No matter how you vary the percentage, okay, of either one, you are always going to make 3,000. That's 3,000 chairs, right? Out of pine, am I right? C11. Oh, oak. I'm sorry. You're making 3,000 chairs out of oak, and you can tell this. See this? Can you see the C11 right here? It's telling you the value of that cell with all these different conditions. Okay, and see how it stays 3,000? So is your production plan sensitive to the selling price of oak products? No, it's not. It's not sensitive at all. Nothing changes. That means it's not sensitive. Okay. Now, what is going to be more sensitive is your profit, right? Obviously. So obviously you would want the price for those products to go up, not down, would be what you would be hoping for. But can you control price? Maybe to some degree, but what's controlling price?
The market.
Yeah, the market and what, supply and demand is controlling, and you have some control maybe over how much you supply, but you don't necessarily have control over what your competitors are supplying. So you do have some control over price, but you don't have necessarily control over what the market will bear. Is that fairly accurate in the furniture business, Bill? You can correct me if I've never been in the furniture business. But what you do have control over is how much you produce. And so what this is saying is the sensitivity to the selling price of oak and pine shouldn't affect your production plan. You should still make 700 and 3,000. And if your sensitivity was accurate, you wouldn't expect it to vary more than 30% either side. You would then know you would make somewhere between 1,021,000 and 1,898,000 in revenue.
What happens if your table says no convergence?
There's probably a problem in your formula somewhere.
If my numbers are slightly different than yours?
If they're slightly different, that may just be a function of how many exponents I have showing and how it's rounding. If they're close, I wouldn't worry. I mean, are we talking like a decimal to a point different, or are we talking?
Now that I'm looking at them, they all say 1,000 or 1,400,000. All of them.
So mine's good.
Are all saying 1,460,000?
But the rest of the numbers are the same. Like,
Yeah.
on top, it's the same.
Okay. I'm guessing that somehow that didn't make it into your profit equation. I can look at it. Do you want to, if one of you wants to send me your model, we'll troubleshoot it. All right. While they're doing that, I get asked a lot of times why I changed the format of this class, because when I started, I would go through and I would teach the models. I would do the examples from the book in class. Do you see how long it's taken with 10 of you to go through one? Okay. And some of you are probably aggravated with me because I was going too slow. Others of you are probably a little aggravated with me because I'm going too fast. And so the first time I taught this, I had 24 students and everybody was miserable the whole time because it didn't matter how I paced the class. It was wrong for a nice group of people. I could change the group that it was wrong for. That just meant that other people were irritated with the pacing that weren't. Can I tell you that's miserable for everybody? For you, it was miserable for the students. It was miserable for me as the instructor. And so what I did is I started putting everything that I used to teach in class on video, because that gives you control over the pacing. It gives you control over how many times that you get to view the materials. And so this class functions so much better if you come in having watched the videos, having tried the problems, and then we come in, we can work one of these. If it goes quickly, we can work more than one. And then I can help you troubleshoot your models. And then last time that worked so well, like most of the class, by the time they left on Monday night, they had all their homework done for the week, and then they were ready to go take their weekly test. Okay. And they knew they had the right answers. So that's sort of the method behind the madness for this class. It's what we're using is essentially called a flipped classroom model, where you're doing a lot of the prep outside, and then we workshop your homework in class. So again, that's why, and this is, again, a casebook example. We've been on this problem, even taking some time up front, we've been on this problem a good hour and 15 minutes. I'm trying to get through 3 or 4 of them like this. Yeah. All right. has somebody sent me an email yet?
I just sent.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and while we're on a quick break, if anybody wants some crackers and cheese. Jessica, I got to leave. I saw Levi's first, so he's the one I pulled. If it's not the same problem and it doesn't fix yours, I'll look at yours too, okay?
Okay.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Where it says like the publisher. Okay, yeah, with the. Sorry. Maybe it's underneath the. There it is. Okay. Where are these? These. Yeah.
Those will be with your Unsengage, with your learning resources there.
With the.
You'll find them somewhere on Cengage.
Okay, on Cengage.
Yeah, they tried to directly link them, but they couldn't.
Okay, because these are separate. Are these the homework explanations, pretty much, like what we just did?
No, okay.
No.
So the videos that I have, when you look at these chapter 2.
Mhm.
I don't make you do chapter 3 anymore, but these are the 2 chapter 3 are the first example or 2 from the book, where I go through and I show you how to do the example, how to install solver table, how to interpret a 1-way and a 2-way solver table output.
Okay, so that's what.
Okay.
So
I'm also recording class tonight. So if you want to, I know you probably want to sit and watch the whole hour and a half again, but if you want to watch portions of it again, it will be available to you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
This is, I had the solver table, it was loaded from NBA Principles,
Okay.
but it doesn't show up in Excel anywhere.
Okay, so if you go down here to go, and so it's on desktop, uncheck it, and then browse again. Every time you have to do this every
Okay,
time.
so that's, all right.
Yeah. And so then just go back to where you had it loaded originally.
Mhm. I'll find it. It's on my desktop in a folder. Yeah, solver table, there it is.
And then yes, you just want to replace it. It'll ask you that every time. It's just
Every time.
it's annoying that it doesn't stay loaded, but now you should see the solver table.
It's not over here.
So usually pulls up a second.
A tab up here or
Another-
underneath here, right?
Yeah, usually it's the tab up there, but it didn't.
Let me look at this.
Try the other one maybe.
Should I take this out first?
Can try that.
Disable it? No, that's not it. I'll screw around with it. It should. So I should be able to pop that out and pop it back in every time. Right?
Yes, yeah, it should. You should be able to. If you updated additions, of
This was
Office?
from the last class,
okay.
way back, so. Haven't used it since then.
So you're saying that there's kind of explanations for the homework questions, like there's videos for them?
Not for the homework, but for the examples in the text. Now what your homework is an answer check. Right. And we can go over how to use that if that would be helpful. Now, is that okay? Yes, this one's yours. And I need to go reshare that with my Google Hangout.
The class meeting for tonight, you wanna go back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what I'll probably do is send it out via email.
Okay.
That was not right, the right one. Do table editing. All right. All right. I'm gonna wait another minute for those in the bathroom. There's another pack of crackers. Feel free to open it. You're welcome. This class is hard enough to try to go, trying to go from 6 to 10 without food. All right, I think everybody's back. All right, so Levi, you laid this out a little bit differently than I did, so which means that the absolute values that I put in won't work for you. So in fact, you're gonna have to put in everything manually to do it like you did it, because there is no good way to do this copying and pasting because the oak is in one column and the pine is another, and you have them in the same column. Does that make sense? You would have had to put them in 2 separate columns. So we can do this, and I can help you fix it, but you can't copy and paste when it's like that. So one of the things when you're laying a spreadsheet out.
I did copy and paste that.
All right. So let me check and just check on your math there. And oak. That works. That works. And that works. In fact, actually, and this is sort of part of how your answer check works. I'm going to plug in 0.3 and 0.2 there. And then I'm going to go back to my model and go over here and share my entire screen. All right. So that you can see as I flop back and forth. All right. So I made this the oak variance 0.3, 0.2. So that means that my selling price should be $390 for oak chairs and $360 for pine chairs, which it is. And then you've got $1040 and $800, which is not what I have. So one issue is that your selling cost for your pine tables is not updating correctly. Do you see how I caught that with the dummy variables? Okay. So I was able to, so there's a problem, that means that there's a problem in this formula. So let's go look and see if we can figure out what it is. Aha, copy, and you probably tried to do a copy and paste. So this should be, instead of referring to C4, it should be referring to B6, this cell. So I'm gonna just drag that down here. And now I have 960. Okay. All right. Now our revenue, you've got, or I've got 1.842 for revenue, and you've got still 146. Okay. Probably because you didn't update your revenue equation. Okay, so instead of doing the selling price, the fixed selling price and the total produced, you've got to do the 2 matrices. So come over here, do this matrix and this matrix. Okay, and now you've got 1.8 for 2. All right, so I essentially just showed you how your answer checks work. I give you dummy variables to plug in. They are not the actual answers to your problems. They're just something so you can go through and check your formula, because then a cell that has a wrong formula will stand out like a sore thumb for you. Okay, if all of your cells have the correct formulas, it usually means the issue is in how you put it in solvers. Sometimes the easiest way, if you're having trouble, is to just take out everything you've got in solver and put it in again. And at the point you've done that and you still can't figure it out, email me. A lot of times it's just students have gotten so close and they've just missed a little bit. They just missed a little something, and I don't mind helping you. I do want you to go through the process and try. But like I said, at the point you've worked with it for, a problem for an hour, 2 hours, something like that, and you're just getting frustrated, email me or email Syra, and usually, we can usually figure it out. Now, what that does not mean is that you should email me at 10 p.m. on Tuesday when your quiz is due in 2 hours and expect an answer. I have a little baby sleeping in my room. My cell phone goes on silent so that it does not disturb her. And I get what sleep I can that's available. You will not get, if you're having trouble with a model, okay, you're usually, give me 24 hours, please, to get back with you, because sometimes it takes me a while to be able to get a minute to pull it up on my computer. It's not something that I can quickly answer you on my phone. You'll find if I can answer you on my phone, I usually will do that pretty quickly. If I have to get down to a computer and take a little bit longer. And sometimes it takes me a while to find your mistake too, especially the smaller it is, sometimes the harder it is to find.
Do you have office hours?
Yes, I do. I will be in my office. My prime office hours are Mondays and Fridays from about 8:30 to 1. And then I'll be in there for like an hour on Wednesday mornings as well. And then I will be available by email and stuff during the rest of the week.
I'm having a hard time just getting into the actual.
Okay. Look, we have tutoring available for this. So Syra tutors. She's my administrative assistant. And then Jenny D, who is Dr. Boland's GA tutors, and Christian Strawbridge, who's Dr. Leslie's GA tutors. Struggling, email them to set up an appointment for tutoring.
Okay. I'm not necessarily struggling. I just can't get the program. Like when I did this for undergrad, we used to use regular Excel and then save the Excel sheets and submit them.
Okay.
We're using a different program, and I just can't. I must be missing stuff somewhere. I don't want to hold everybody else up.
I will come help you once we get through with this portion and see what we can. And if we can't put our heads together and figure it out, Tom down in IT and JR, they've all taken this class and they're good at helping you get your computer set and going. Yeah, and if it's a technical issue, they're better to ask than my tutors. Okay, my tutors are very good at this stuff. They're not IT people. If you're having trouble with IT, like I said, Tom, JR, Jack has taken this class at this point, and they're all pretty good at helping troubleshoot the issues with this particular set of software. All right, so Levi, I want to rerun the solver table for you as you set it up. It should still be here. It may not because see. Yeah, it's still here. So I'm going to rerun this for you, and I want to make sure that we're getting consistent answers now. So again, amount to produce isn't changing, but you are now getting the same answers I am for the revenue changing. Okay. Were you able to get yours to work as well, Jessica? Okay, very good. Does anybody else have a question about this model?
Should we need to wait for a break to figure out what's going on with the no compliance thing?
Yes. Yeah. What I'm going to do now is, does anybody have a homework problem they'd like me to troubleshoot? Anyone? I see that I have some online students viewing at this point. If you can communicate with me via the chat window in our course shell. And y'all don't want to see that. Okay. You're welcome to communicate with me via the chat window. If you've got something that you would like, a problem you'd like me to troubleshoot as well, you can email it to me.
Maybe from our homework problems?
Yeah, homework problems at this point. Mm-hmm.
So 27, I just had trouble doing the graphical solution.
Okay, graphical solution you can't do. Yes, you can do it in Excel. I think it was Josh Breed found a video that showed you how to actually do the graphical solution in Excel. It's helpful because it'll help you understand the problem, but I'm actually not grading on whether or not you do the graphical solution. So you could skip that part if you wanted to. But I can send you the video if you want to try to do an Excel. I would recommend if you just do it by hand, if you want to get it. Yeah, just do a hand-drawn graph. And like I said, you don't have to submit that part. But I will say, just Jenny actually that found it. Because they said the first week of this class tends to be the hardest. And they said that was doing that graphical solution was what helped make the whole thing click for them. So.
Could you go over setup for like number 28?
Okay.
I'm just kind of getting like the input set and the constraints.
Okay. I will help with a basic model on that one. Here's my. All right, so this is going to be problem 28. I'm not going to work the whole problem, but I will help. I'll help you think through how to set it up. All right, so our three things that we're going to start with are our objective cell. What's the next one? Decision cells. It's usually more than one. And then our constraints. Okay, so what's our objective? Is this a min or a max? Okay, we're going to minimize. And what are we minimizing? I'm sorry, let me put this back on for you. When I go to my email, I try to take it off this so that I help protect student privacy if anybody's emailed me panicked about something. All right. It happens. I learned my lesson the hard way last semester. Like, oh, I should not project that. Okay. So min, and what are we minimizing? Net cost, okay? And what are we deciding? What do we have control over?
It says how you meet the demands for the next 4 months, but I don't understand.
Okay. So what are you doing in the problem? What?
Are you trying to reduce what you're storing? $20 per unit?
Well, your objective is to minimize total cost. So that's a factor in the problem, but it's not the problem in and of itself. Okay. Because some months it might be cheaper to do that than to do what? What's the other thing you can choose to do?
So maybe you should produce more during the months that it's lower.
Okay. Well, and what we're trying to say is not decide how much we're going to produce ourselves, but just identify our decision cells. So what's our decision cell?
How much to produce?
How much to produce? Actually, yes. Exactly. How much to produce each month is our decision cell. Okay. And again, yeah, I think that can be our only decision cell. What are our constraints?
The production cost?
Production cost is other important information. Okay, and I can put that down here.
Required.
Okay, what do we have to do with the required commodity? Okay, so that means that the amount available after production has to be greater than or less than. Greater than or it's greater than or equal to the demand. Okay. other important information would be production costs, storage costs, and selling price at month 4. And beginning inventory. Is that enough to help get you started?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. Does anybody have one that they've tried and struggled with they'd like me to troubleshoot?
This isn't necessarily about a problem, but how do you get, when you like book habit, where you can put like the names of your range on your actual sheet, and then it says like model, and then has all that stuff. How do you just copy that and put it on?
Okay, let me go back to my other, because it's already built, so we can do it more easily. All right. All right, so first, before I can show you how to do that, I have to name some ranges. So I'm going to formulas, I'm going to define name, create from selection, and I'm going to create from left column, create from selection. Now that's going to be top row, and this one's going to be column.
So if it already has a label, then we can just do it in the name box. Like the easy.
Yes. Yeah, but you have to, they have to be adjacent to each other, and they have to be the same shape to be able to do it that way. That's why I'm having to do this in a couple of different steps. All right. So now, see where it says use in formula and paste names? And then I say paste list. There you have it. Okay.
Where did you say you went again? You went.
Use in formula and paste names. Okay. All right, we've got about 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to have to break. I have a little baby that is still exclusively nursed and will be very angry tomorrow night if there's not enough milk for her. And my goodness, that child has a set of lungs. She is sweet, but that albuterol has made her more aggressive than, yeah. Anybody else have one they want me to help them troubleshoot before we break?
Could you go through the learn check?
The answer check?
Yeah.
Sure. I essentially just did with what I did with your problem. They work on that concept where you, I give you dummy numbers to plug in, you plug it in, and then you spot check the formulas. I basically just showed you how they would work. I can actually go through one. Let's see. You guys are still in my fire.
Why did they change some of the courses?
They're in the process of changing everybody, and they realized it was too much to try to change everybody this semester, so they went ahead and changed online to Brightspace. Face-to-face, you are still on my fire. So, it's a, Brightspace is new to all of us. At Southeastern anyway, Southeastern has never used Brightspace before.
Is it a Learning House?
Learning House is still involved, but we are getting away from MyFire, which was Moodle. I'm loving. I'm teaching Brightspace for the online section. I'm loving Brightspace so far. It's really, really easy to figure out. I thought it was very intuitive. Moodle's not bad. MyFire's not bad on your end as students, and it's not bad as an instructor once it gets set up. But it is. It was much more difficult than Blackboard that we used before to get the course actually set. Like Blackboard, you could get your grade book and you just added items and it like worked without anything special. And Moodle wasn't quite that user friendly. The poor College of Education probably got more questions about how do I get my grade book to work? All right, let me find you all. Where are you? There we are. I love how you're the only class that I'm teaching on MyFire, and yet you're like number 12 on my list. It's just special. All right. So we're going to go to week 1 and answer check. All right. So I'm going to just enter dummy answers. And you really don't even have to do them all at one time. You're not graded on answer check. It's for your benefit, not for your grade. So I'm going to just go ahead and finish this attempt and I will show you on those. If you don't put in an answer, you won't get any feedback. Okay, so if you just leave a question blank, you get no feedback. So if you're struggling and you want to put in a dummy answer to get some feedback and get some help, just like I said, don't leave it blank. You actually need a dummy answer. So it says I missed them all, but like I said, it's only going to give me the feedback, these two. Okay. So this is problem 2. So I'm going to pull up and I can show you that one. Okay. So what I would do in the answer is check. There it is. So what I would do is enter 100 to produce for each of the 3 models. Okay. And then I'm going to troubleshoot my answers. So in fact, I'm going to intentionally make a mistake. And so this, hopefully I made a good mistake. Yeah, there we go. So I have a mistake I can find. And okay, need another mistake, didn't I? No. It's still not working. Why is that not working? Oh, I see. Okay, there we go. Now it's wrong. All right. So I've entered, what the directions say is to enter 100 for the number to produce for all of it. And then it tells you what your value should be for the labor for assembling and labor for testing. So I should have 1900 hours of labor for testing used and 600 hours of labor for assembling used. So I find that this is right. Anytime you have one formula, the first formula that's right, and you've copied and pasted and the rest are wrong, it almost always means that there's an absolute value problem, okay? And so that's, again, that is what I did, is I made this number an absolute value so that it didn't adjust correctly. And so when I fix my absolute value error, this should now be 600, okay? And then it also gave me what my total should be, which was, okay, I did total net, not the profit. So 8,000, 12,9, and 15,2. So 8,000, 12,9, and 15,2. And those are correct. This one isn't, because I goofed around with this trying to make it wrong to show you how it worked. So put it back. So that's, in a nutshell, that's how the answer checks work. It gives you, I tried to, anywhere you needed a formula, give you a way to check that formula with a dummy number. This obviously does not make sense as an optimal solution, right? You're not going to turn this in. If you base your test on this, you will get them all wrong. If you base your scenario write-up on this, you will not get credit for a correct answer. We're clear on that? I needed a way to let you check your formulas without giving you the answer. Okay, so we use dummy variables. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions before we break for a few minutes? Going once, going twice. All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop the live session. What we will do when we come back from a break is I will help you on individual issues. I will help you to CC and David, thank you. I will help you to see if we can figure out what's going on with your solver table. If anybody else has issues with homework that you need some help with, I will be glad to help you troubleshoot your own models. Most students find that to be one of the most valuable aspects of the class. Require that you stay at this point. When you're done, I'm good. You're adults. This is your time essentially. So if you come and you've got all your homework models done and you've got the right answers and you don't feel the need to stay, you're good to go.